my name is DeMarcus Adisa, and I am one of the 2025 Adobe Creative Fellows. Um, and I've had the pleasure of being involved with this program since June. It's been an amazing experience. And one of the best parts of the experience was actually spending a week training with Christine, who I'm getting ready to introduce. And I'll talk about her a little bit after I introduce Michael here. So this panel that I'm introducing is on AI tools transforming post-production. And we have Michael Kammes here, who is the Senior Director of Innovation at Keycode Media. Which,
all right. Yeah.
Michael has 20 plus years in post-production experience. He's an industry speaker and the host of the popular Five Things series, sharing insights on production, post workflows, and applied AI technologies. And this fabulous woman to my right is Christine Steele, who is a Emmy and Telly Award-winning director, producer, and educator.
And an Adobe community expert.
Most importantly,
ask me anything. Doesn't mean I'll answer it. You can ask me anything.
Christine has 20 plus years of experience in media. She's worked with Disney, Pixar, Paramount, DreamWorks, and PBS, and is an Adobe certified instructor who mentors storytellers globally through events like Adobe Max and Sundance. And as I said, we had the privilege to spend a week with her earlier this summer in June, and it was a phenomenal experience. She brought a breadth of technical knowledge to our cohort, but I think one of the most amazing things about the experience was just her authenticity. Christine is very passionate about what she does, but also passionate about giving back and giving back in a level that is relatable and understanding. She didn't start off how she started off. She had to teach herself. And I think in a lot of industries, they say that you have to pay your dues, and Christine doesn't necessarily believe in that. She's going through these things and she wants to create pathways to make things easier for others so they can get there faster. And I just appreciate everything you've done for us and everything you'll bring today. So without further ado, Christine and Michael.
Thank you. I think I don't need this. Can you guys hear me with the lav mic? I think so, yeah. Hi, you guys. That was I'm so honored. DeMarcus, thank you. That was so great. I am going to keep my part of this presentation a little bit short because, as the fellows mentioned, they got my instruction for a whole week. And I've invited Michael Kammes of Keycode Media because this is the fella and the company that I would reach out to when I have questions, and his breadth of knowledge about the contemporary and most current brand new AI technology related to film, video, broadcast, and content creation world is something that he's come here to share with you and with me so that I can actually learn a lot of what he's got to share. So I'm going to keep my presentation a little bit on the short side, mainly because the thing that happened yesterday is Adobe announced an update to Premiere. And so I don't know if you fellows have updated yet. It's just rolled out yesterday. They're making announcements of everything new in Adobe Premiere. 25.5 is the current version. And I've decided I'm going to show you something really cool that you have access to now if you update Premiere. And this is a brand new acquisition inside of Premiere. I've prepped some of the AI-specific tools and features. If we have enough time after Michael's demo, I can jump back into these. But there isn't a lot of brand new AI in Premiere that hasn't already been out. What they've been doing is taking the AI that is recent in this year and upgrading and adding cooler features to it. What I'm about to show you is brand new. You've never seen it before in Premiere. This is why I really wanted to focus on this. And I don't know if any of you have had a Film Impact subscription, but in Hollywood, Film Impact is a package of effects that are real-time and incredible. And Adobe has acquired this and built it into Premiere so that we don't need to go anywhere. And what I want to show you is that if I'm here inside of Premiere Pro and I have a timeline and I want to get in here and show you in the timeline that I can access these 90 new transition effects and animation tools and have animation happening for me live in real time and tweak it from inside here for even something like a still image like this. This is just a PNG. You can take a PNG like these two, right? An Adobe logo and a Premiere logo, anything you bring in, and you can apply transitions and effects that look like this in real time. This is all the automated for you animations. And I'm going to show you how, where you can get this and how you can do this really quickly on your own. But I warn you, as you're watching these mosaics and spins and blurs and glitches, you can go down the rabbit hole with this and have so much fun for hours and hours and hours. So I'm going to show you a couple tricks to make it a little faster and easier for you. But I just wanted you to see, these are just two still images that were brought in and turned into all of these really nice features. So what you're going to do is access the Film Impact dashboard, which now comes with your subscription. No additional subscriptions needed any longer. So up in Premiere Pro, if you go to the window menu and come down 3 to extensions, you'll see the Film Impact dashboard is available for you. You're going to call that open. I've got it docked over here on the right side of my workspace, but I'm going to stretch that open so that you guys can really get in here and see that inside the Film Impact dashboard, you have effects, essential effects, lights and blurs, motion tools. There's 90 in here, and transitions, essential lights and blurs, distortion, transform, animations, smoke, mosaics, vignettes, echo glow. See the little apply button? Little heart for favoriting what you like. And one of the things I want to show you is I've got one in here called Play, Film Impact Animation Demo Play, to kind of show you a couple of different things. Like, all I have are these, Premiere and Adobe logos. But if I want to apply any of these effects to it, anything, I can go in here and say, well, I want a blur effects or a smoke effect or a mosaic effect. If I select the clip and hit apply, that's going to be applied automatically. But you go to the Effects Control tab, and under the Effect Control tab, you have the name of the effect. This is the mosaic effect. And you have controls that are After Effects level controls that you guys can get in here and play with curves and keyframes. But you need to take a look at this really cool button. Now, back in the day in After Effects, we had this brainstorm button that would allow us to click it, and it would demo for you some of the cool things it could do. Well, they've given this to me, and they call it, look at this, Surprise Me. Okay, so I like this because what I can do is click Surprise Me, play through it in real time, and take a look at some of the things that it's doing to the animation. And when you take a look at what it's done, you can look at and learn how to affect these things more quickly. So you can come in here and say, oh, I can do this in seconds or frames. That means I could have this take a long time and have it be a nice slow animation, or I can have it be really quick in just a few frames. Oh, I've got some scale controls. I can scale it to 30% or 80%. These are keyframeable. But if you don't know how to use it yet, go through and hit Surprise Me, get this, over and over again, right? So here's the deal. I was like, oh my God. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool. Okay, Surprise Me again. What's this going to look like this time? Real-time changes. Okay, Surprise Me again. Okay, Surprise Me again. Now, here's the thing. Each time it does this, it's altering the graphs. It's changing the ease features, the type of ease on these keyframes over here. And I know some of you who I've worked with understand keyframing, but if you're new to this, this is the way to go, is use Surprise Me to learn what it's changing and what options you have. It's sort of like a quick cheat sheet, right, on what you can do here. And what I like about Surprise Me is don't forget that once I come in here and I decide, oh, I like what it surprised me with this time, I can go to the name of the effect, right-click it, and save that as a preset before I click Surprise Me again. Now, in the end, I ended up with a whole bunch of these presets, and I had to go delete a whole bunch of them because I was like, wait, what one was that? It was 4 back. But it was just this really fun way to take a look at what was going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and play through this again and show you these are all, did you notice all this is changing in real time and updating in real time? Now I've got this blinky look because I've changed it all, right? So it's taking this single image and crafting animations for you live in real time. And it's not just the 90 new effects that you can apply to your clips. You have this ability to have it surprise me, and it feels infinite, right? I'm looking at all these things. But don't forget that this isn't just applicable to a video clip or a still. I can go in here and take a look at something that I've used an AI feature in Premiere called Auto Reframe to take this whole edit to 16 from 16 by 9 to 9 by 16, right? And I've had auto AI tools inside of Premiere build me these captions, right? So the captions are automatically applied. But let's say I want to make this cooler. This is something, bless you, this is something people have been asking for a long time inside Premiere. They want to be able to animate these captions on this social content, right? So going ahead and using the film impact transitions, applying these transitions here to just the captions that AI auto-generated for this piece. See the glitches? So this is all pretty easy to accomplish. I want to show you a shortcut for working with this. Right, finally, we've got this ability here. Essentially what I have is before those were applied, I've got a whole line of V3 graphics here, right? So I'm just selecting all of those at one time, and I'm going to the transitions, and I can go to lighting and blur or central or distortions and do an earthquake or a glitch, right? All I did was apply the glitch transition at every cut point so that between all the captions it glitches. See it? It's that fast. It's doing it for me. I'm playing it back in real time. So in addition now to having these features to apply to a still, a video clip, or a caption, you can animate these captions so quickly now and change your default settings. Of course, I can change the duration of these. And if I click on the badge for the transition, I can go in and change the way that that transition is being affected. And hey, look, surprise me. I've got the surprise me button even for the caption animations as well. So this is all brand new out yesterday. And it's sort of applying, I'm showing you these as being applied on top of other AI features in Premiere, being able to auto-generate your captions, being able to auto-reframe for social, and being able to automatically have animation be part of your journey. But be warned, you might need a few hours the first time you try to play with it, because you're going to have so much fun and go down the rabbit hole like I did. And don't forget to go ahead and save those presets if you want to get back to some of the surprise me features. All right. I want to cede most of my time over to Michael. If we have time at the end, I would love to be able to revisit a few other AI features inside of Premiere, but that was the big news announced yesterday at IBC in Europe. The last thing I want to show you guys is this. That. If you need some Adobe professional training, or you want some consultation or some workflow support with your software, your creative content process, you want to take some classes or provide some classes to your business members, your team, you can reach me at Steele Pictures. My name has an E on the end, STEELE pictures.com. You can talk to our wonderful NAACP fellows from this year or last, and they'll give you input and sing my praises. But you can reach me at steelepictures.com. You can email me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn class in Premiere called Premiere Pro Quick Tips. If you need some quick tips, you can learn a new quick tip in under 2 minutes a day. So those are real short. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. And I wanted to mention that Adobe Max is right around the corner. This is the Adobe flagship creativity conference. It's held downtown at the LA Convention Center. Does anybody besides me old enough to keep calling it Staples? I always mess it up. The convention center, it's going to be October 28th through the 30th. So just before Halloween. They do, for the first time this year, offer some passes for a single day as opposed to the whole 3-day event. They have student and teacher price rates as well. Please go and check out Adobe Max Creativity Conference. I will be there speaking and teaching about Premiere. I'll do a cinematic techniques lab, and I'll be doing a couple sessions on intermediate and advanced editing inside Premiere. So I hope that we can get the fellows there. We'll see. And Michael, let's turn it over to you.
All right. Well, it's placed. Okay. I mean, stereo apparently.
I'm turning this on.
No, that turned off. Setting I need to change up here.
Is your microphone on the computer?
Check 1, 2.
Not anymore. Here we go. Thank you. I have a job in technology, and I couldn't do that. I used to do live AV, and thank you. Thank you. You think we call that CYA, right? Cover your ass? So, my name's Michael Kammes. One of the things I specialize in is not only making sense out of zeros and ones, but who here knows the phrase, I used to be in the chair? Right? That means I used to be a creative, right? Where people stare at the back of your head all day, right? Because you're in front of the computer like, is that good? Is that good? Is that good? And I got out of that and decided that I like technology more. Maybe I just work better with technology than I do people. But what you're going to learn today is not only about AI, where we are, what does what, but also some tools that you can get today that will help you, that will be your editing assistant. It'll be your editing tool, right? So why don't we start real quick? So when I was in the chair, I specialized in audio. Has anyone here edited or mixed music before, right? We used to have a phrase called, don't bore us, get to the chorus, right? So what I'm going to do is blow your minds from minute one is I'm going to jump into Premiere, right? And I have a clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson. Unfortunately, he's on Joe Rogan, but it's a very insightful episode. But it's also, if I take a look here, and I'll put in my quick keys here, you'll see that if I look at the timeline down here, oh, that's 3 hours long, man. I don't have that 3 hours worth of time. I also don't really care what Joe has to say. So how do I get the things that I want out of this, right? Maybe it's cutting down a podcast. Maybe you're working for a corporate entity that had interviews and it had somebody just ramble on for hours. You're like, look, I need that soundbite, right? I don't need that 3 hours. So there's a tool called Quicture, like picture, but the word quick. And what Quicture does is it takes a look at your audio. It automatically uploads the audio from your sequences to the cloud. It then uses its magic. It then delivers you what we have right here, which is not only a summary of what what's on the timeline, what happened, but also, and this is the most important part, this is what we call story beats, right? This is why you do watch downs, right? What was said in this transcript that's interesting? Where's the story here? A lot of us, right, would love AI to cut stuff for us, but AI, how does AI know what's important or what's relevant to the audience I'm speaking to? So what Quicture does is say, look, here are all the things that, according to our algorithm, is good, right? So there's a discussion here. Can everyone see me kind of zooming in? That's not as big as I'd like. But discussion about NGT's book, Astrophysics. Okay, yeah, if I move my mouse to the left here, you can see that it's told me, it's kind of emotional, Neil's usually pretty funny. Okay, that's good. It's not spicy, so that means it's good for kids, right? But if I scroll down here, you'll see that some are marked green, bright green, which means, oh yeah, this is a good story point, right? Story value on here is 8. That's off the charts. And if I scroll down here, you can see all these different topics. What I can then say is, that's great and all, but now that I have all these topics, how can you edit this for me? And this is where I say, well, you know what? I already cut something, or someone else already cut something. I want you to make it look like that sequence. Or maybe, like I said a few minutes ago, I don't care to hear what Joe has to say. So I'm going to say, nope, I don't need to hear him. So that means when AI cuts it, nothing he says will be in there. Yeah, I know it. Yeah. Wish I had this many years ago, right? What's that? How long is it now? That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an a-hole filter on here, so I can't filter that out. But what we also have things are, and this goes to the age gap, right? Do you like jump cuts? For folks of us of a certain age, jump cuts were forbidden, right? You didn't do jump cuts unless it was a stylistic choice. Now it is almost a meme unto itself. But they have features here called chunking, which was I want just chunks, or do a lot of jump cuts. And then to your question about how long did Joe speak, I don't know how much Joe spoke, but I do know that there's almost 2.5 hours of talking. So you know what? Well, let's cut this down to, let's see, maybe 20 minutes, and I can auto edit. And because as a good demo artist, what we call pre-baking, right? The Julia Childs thing, we make sure it's ready to go. So if I jump to what would take 5 or 10 minutes, let's jump to that sequence. Where's the edited one? Here we go. So if you can see in here, I now have a new sequence, right? You see all these cuts there, right? Those are all cuts that AI gave me. And if you look at the top here, it actually tells you what that topic is that AI thought was so important. So why don't we zoom in on this? So yes, the fostering a lifetime curiosity and learning, the scientific method. So if I put my mouse down here and I hit play, we should have audio coming out. I have that set in my Premiere settings and my MacBook settings. If you want to pull that audio up. No, I'll do another quick setting here to make sure that hardware and software are selected. Yeah, default output, NDI audio. Okay. Well, trust me, the cut was good. The cut was good. Now, who here also, people of a certain age, who here knows what a radio edit is?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope all of you have your hands up, because that was a phrase we used to use when creating a documentary, that you would hit your audio story beats, right? And then you'd choose what B-roll to put over it. If it's someone speaking, well, maybe you have them speaking already, so you've got your audio and video. But for other uses, look, I want to tell my story and then decide what B-roll I need. That's a radio edit. It doesn't just mean audio. This sequence here is your radio edit. You now have all the sound bites. You have them lined up. Now you'll probably go in there and massage some things so the tempo's right. But this allows you to get that radio edit without you having to watch down 30 hours of content, right? That's available today. All right, so that's just starting out our journey. Yes, sir.
The audio
Regular computer speakers, not NDI audio. Okay, done. All right. So Jonathan was a gamer. I thought if he's still here, he'd appreciate the Nintendo, because that's kind of what I cut my teeth on after the Atari 2600. Okay, so who here is using AI? And hang on, okay, let's keep your hands up. If I say ChatGPT doesn't count, okay, it does. I'm just curious, right? Okay. No, that's great. That's great, because there's a fear, and some of it is a little irrational, and that's why I do a lot of edutainment, so you can kind of see what is something to be worried about and what something isn't to be worried about. So we're going to cover something called analytical AI today, which is the exact opposite of generative AI, which is what really worries people. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to show you real-world examples, and these are all tools you can use now. So first thing is everyone in here who's an editor, I want you to just shout out something that's a pain in the butt while you're editing. Edit. Okay, editing. Maybe you should try production. Maybe. But music. So getting the timing right. Okay. What's that? Noise? Okay, I thought you were just like noise. Like, no, nice. Okay. How about, go ahead. Notes. Right.
Nothing.
Transcripts? Okay. How many people have to deal with getting shoot ratios of like 20 or 30 to 1? Right? So instead of an hour, you have an hour finished product. Oh, I've got 10 hours of raw footage. Or someone saying, you know what? I know you cut that for YouTube, but can you also do it for YouTube Shorts and Instagram? And you're like, now I got to use auto reframe in Adobe. But then again, each platform has its own proclivities, right? But when people watch it, what they like and how they stay engaged. So what I put together is what I like to call editor bingo. And these are all things that I'm hearing some chuckles. So I'm sure all of you are like, yep, right? So like, is there a better take? No, I purposely decided not to put that in, right? Or we get things like not enough time, or can you do something for Instagram stories, right? Oh, or how about language dubs, right? Maybe you're working on a project where someone speaks a different language and you're like, I can't cut that. I don't speak the language. So what we can do with AI today, and I don't know how many of you play bingo, but AI can solve those problems, AI can solve those problems, AI can solve those problems, and AI can solve those problems today, okay? So let me show you how that works. So I brought this up a few minutes ago. All of us who have been in the traditional film, TV editing process probably understand that there are, 6,000 variants of cuts, right? The assembly, the radio, the rough, the fine, the final. Then there's the inevitable final -2 and final -3. So where AI is today is right here. AI can get you your assembly. AI can get you the radio edit. Again, that's audio and video, but with your audio beats. And we're getting almost to the rough cut phase. In the next 6 months, there will be products that do that. But right now, it's not cost effective to have something do a rough edit totally without some serious considerations into your budget and quality that you're getting. So this is, if you walk away with nothing else but the next 5 minutes, this is it. There are over 30 different types of AI if you want to get... Okay. Well, I don't know why that happened. We'll bounce back to Keynote. Did Keynote crash? Here it is. All right. So of the almost 30 different kinds of AI, there's only 2 that you really need to be worried about. One is generative AI. Generative AI, deepfakes, right? It's saying, look, I'm going to take something from Disney and I'm going to do something I shouldn't be doing with it, right? That's generative AI. That's taking existing content and I'm going to create something new that's visual, something new that's auditory, something new that stimulates my senses, but is completely new. Then we have where the real money is. And what I mean by that is a report came out from Forbes a month ago that said 95% of generative AI projects at corporations fail because we're not there yet. But analytical AI, what I just showed you with the automatic cutting, auto reframing, the auto mixing that Adobe's doing, that's all analytical AI, right? Because that's just manipulating what already exists. It's not saying I'm going to regurgitate this as something completely new. It's just analyzing what's already been given. And then you put a large language model on there, like a ChatGPT, and now you have, I don't want to say human interaction, but you have contextual information, right? How many times have you gone to search for things in your computer and you're like, I know what the file name is, I'll search for that. What if I could just say, it was a picture I took a year ago and it was outside and I think Jane was in that. That's what you want. You want that contextual ability for contextual search. So the way I like to think about it is generative AI is new, analytical AI is recap, right? That's how you can kind of differentiate between the two. And I mentioned, this is generative AI is what everyone's worried about, right? OpenAI was pausing the GPT 4.0 image generation because they happen to be copying someone else's style. Disney and Universal are suing Midjourney because, that really looks like Homer Simpson. I don't think that was licensed to you, right? But analytical AI, here's a good example. Can anyone tell me what poster this is from, what movie this is from? Thank you. Yes. It's a very heartwarming movie. Great for kids, right? But this is what analytical AI can do. I took this image, put it into AI, and I said, tell me about this image. Now, I don't expect you to read this because I have glasses and I still can't see it. But if I zoom in on here, you'll see stuff like It understands we're in an urban, suburban environment and that it's wet outside, time of day, artificial light kind of skews what time it is, but it says what the object detection is in the scene. It also says, look, this is a brick house with shutters and wrought iron gate. It's indicative of East Coast. Yeah, that's where this took place. So analytical AI can glean all of this from a 40-year-old picture and can make decisions or present you options because it understands these things that we may not get at a first pass.
Did it understand it was doing that?
It did say AI-driven style and genre clarification because I didn't ask it that. And I'll tell you, I'll give you some tips for prompts later on. Let's turn that off. All right. So again, I mentioned analytical AI is recap. Gen AI is new. Another way of thinking about it is in every frame of video or film or image, just think of two things. What is said and what is seen. Whatever is said is analytical AI. Whatever is seen is analytical AI. So I'm going to show you some more tools on how this is done. Now, Christine has already shown some Adobe stuff, so I'm not going to focus a lot on that. But what we find is the most prevalent right now is utilizing AI, analytical AI, for speech to text, right? Getting transcripts, captions, translation from language to language, and summarization. And Christine showed Premiere, so I'm going to jump into Resolve. Do you have any Resolve users here? Yeah? Okay. Excellent. So this can be done in both the free version and the paid studio version, right? So this is another Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he's talking with Brian, I'm drawing a blank on his name, about Brian Cox regarding particle physics, something light, right? So, but what I can do is I can go in here and right-click on the clip and select, let's put my Zoom tool back on here. Where's my AI tools? Hang on. Good old Resolve. Hang on, am I on the wrong?
See, it's easier. So
Yeah. Touche. There's actually, if I right click on this, there should be an AI tools option right here. Am I on the wrong? No, it's just not showing. Yeah, that's weird. Thank you, Resolve. There we go. Here's another clip. AI tools. So if I go into audio transcription in here, right, which we're accustomed to, I can select transcribe. And then once that's transcribed, you know what? I don't want this line of text. I can just delete it. And if you look at the end, I'll do that again. Look at the end of the timeline over there. If I say, you know what, this is, I don't like this text here. I don't like them talking about that. Edit, done. So that's done in Premiere. That's done in Resolve. Exactly the same. So this enables you. And what I find, and I hate to keep bringing up generational stuff, but I read faster than I watch video. Maybe it's Gen X, I don't know, but I would rather read something than watch something. So if I have to sit there and watch something and go in and out and mark a clip, in and out, and yeah, that's a good one, in and out, I can instead just scan through this and say, no, that's not important, delete. So what I like about tools like this, whether it's in Premiere or Resolve, is that no matter how you edit, how you tell your story, there's a way to do that, right? All right, so let's jump back to good old Mr. Keynote. Here's another one, and this goes into the concept I talked about earlier about where we are in the rough cut in the video editing process, right? Assembly, radio, etc. And one of the big gaps is visual analysis because it takes a ton of horsepower. Needs a lot of GPU, a lot of graphics cards horsepower. So visual analysis encompasses things like face detection, right? Or what I like to call facial grouping, where it says, I've seen your face 100 times. Who are you? Oh, that's Christine. Now I know that every single of those shots are Christine. Or object recognition, right? That's a car, that's a boat, that's a candy bar, those kinds of things. And then scene detection, right? Indoor, outdoor, etc. Because knowing this data then allows you to say, well, I need a shot of Christine talking outside with a candy bar. Okay, I didn't have to go in and tag everything, right? Has anyone here had the unfortunate experience of working with asset management systems? Yeah? Okay, so there was the hype and there was the promise of you'll tag everything and then you can find everything. And then 3 or 4 months in, people stop tagging and people stop using it. And those tagging terms are often this gets kind of esoteric, what are objective reality is, right? So do you tag a car going fast as traveling? Or what do you tag that as, right? Why do I have to dumb down how I think of things so a computer can understand? A computer should understand the concept of what I'm looking for, right? And now, if this gets a little confusing, think of it like RoboCop, because that's what RoboCop did. Remember, in his HUD, his heads-up display, right? He's like, he recognized that face, he recognized that object, and scene detection. All right, there's a bad guy here, so it understood that. So there's a couple ways to apply this. We have Premiere, again, which Christine showed, but the other tool, which is fantastic, is Color Lab. Has anyone heard of Color Lab? All right, if you search for it, put that extra U in there because he's not American. So you put extra U in things. Yes. So this is, I am not a colorist. In fact, I have a slight color blindness, so I'm like paranoid that I'm going to do it wrong. So Color Lab allows you to take your raw footage, whether it's a camera original, like the original camera negative we used to call it, or if it's something that came off your Blackmagic camera, or maybe it's an MP4 you downloaded from YouTube. What I can do is go on the right side here and say, you know what? I want this to look like something different, right? And probably the most stark change is Wes Anderson, right? I'm not a huge fan, not my jam, but I get the visual aesthetic. So I can select this as my reference and then hit match. And it is going to try and take my shot and match it to this. Not great, but why don't we go with something subtle? And hopefully it'll show up here. So I'm going to go back to my references and I'm going to say, you know what? This is kind of a little too warm, right? I think it should be a little bit more cool. Do I have a reference here that's a little bit of a cooler shot? Here we go. There we go. That's a little bit cooler, still warm. So I'm going to hit match. And when I hit match, you'll see my shot on the left just get a tad more, right? And since Color Lab isn't a video editor, I can go up here and say export a LUT, right? A lookup table, just a mathematical change of how your image should look, and bring it into Premiere. Then you put it on our adjustment layer, your color's done. All right? We good? Everyone following along? All right, excellent, cool. All right, so let's jump back to RoboCop. All right, so here's another one. We call this audio intelligence. There's a word called diarization. Has anyone heard of it? Okay, diarization. So let's say I bring a microphone in this room like I have right now, and I get all of you talking, and then I feed this to an AI. The AI is going to say, speaker 1, speaker 2, speaker 3, I don't know who the hell you are, right? But if AI can infer who you are from the context of the audio, then when you get your transcript into Premiere or Resolve or Media Composer, it will have your name, right? I don't know if you remembered when I was in Premiere, let's back up to Premiere, and if I go into the transcript up here, it actually has Neil deGrasse Tyson's name. If I go to Zoom, right, it auto-recognized who is speaking. So when you're editing something, text-based or video-based, helps a lot if you know who the hell is talking, right? So the fact that this is done on the fly, that's an example of media intelligence. We also have things like music. You've seen remixing tools, right? That'll allow you to expand or contract the audio, maybe take out the bass, maybe take out the vocals. Sound effects. I have yet to see a company that says, I'm going to auto spot sound effects in your timeline. It's coming. NDA, it's coming. And then getting rid of background noise, right? Which I'm sure all of us have had to dealt. I think someone brought up during the editor bingo portion, background noise, and how to get rid of that.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, since I'm sure Christina's already gone over the Premiere, I would just skip over that. Yeah? No?
This time, you want to show it's a new.
Yep.
The noise.
Sure, I can do that. So, yes. So let me go to my, it's the, window, but they changed the name, right?
But it
Just sound now.
just the sound. Yeah.
There we go. So I'm going to select this audio here. Unfortunately, it's kind of pristine, but what I can do is select a preset, right? And there's some background effects. There's some effects here. So if you want it to sound like someone's in the other room, you can certainly select that. Let me zoom in again, right? Background Walla Walla. There's balanced low tone voice, clean up noisy dialogue. I'm just going to select default. And then if you see here, I then have all these parameters that I almost want to call it Firefly, and I didn't want to call it Firefly. But you can see here, I can do things like loudness, I can do repair, I can do clarity. And as someone who got a degree in audio, that's what I got my degree in. When I was editing a podcast last week, I spent an hour just trying to dial in someone's dialogue, and I finally said, F it. And I ran it through Premiere, and it got me 90% of the way there. So it's something that maybe you should try before you're like, I'm going to use Isotope, and I'm going to use Waves, and I'm going to, all these plugins. You may want to rethink that subscription. Just saying. All right. So next, we have probably one of the most important things that I see coming for what's left of the professional industry, and that's called metadata and smart search. Now, I mentioned earlier, when we search for things, we've been conditioned to search in a way that the computers understand, right? Even when I go to Apple, right? I'm going to hit escape here, and let's say I go to my Finder, and I want to search for something. I have to search. Come on, give me my search window. And you're not. There we go. When I enter my search window, I have to use terms and words that macOS understands, right? So I put cars in there. It's going to find things with cars. Okay. Now let's filter by, again, what I mentioned earlier, objective terms, last open date, contents, last modified date. I don't know. I want to find the person I want to find. So that's where these tools come into play. Ones that are what we call tagless, so you don't have to assign a keyword to them. Ones that all your team members can use, because while a lot of the AI in Adobe is great, a lot of that AI is for that one person, right? Unless there's some collaborative workflows going on, you got to process the same thing twice. I also want to add context to search, right? Is the person inside or outside? Are they loud? Are they soft? Let me show you how that works. So this is me remoting into a machine that's about, where is it? About 30 miles away. There we go. Did it close on me? There it is. So this is a product called Caraone, Caraone. One of the big fears about AI is that if I upload things to the cloud, how do I know people aren't using that for nefarious purposes or making money off it? And there's lobbyists right now trying to make it so if you put content on a cloud, it can be public, kind of stripping the rights you have as a content creator. So a lot of folks have said, F that, I want it running at my office. I don't want it to talk to the internet. But the problem you run into is that you don't get all that horsepower, right? To run ChatGPT, that's a lot of horsepower. But if you use ChatGPT, let's say translate. If I'm not working in 80 different languages, why do I need all that horsepower? What if I'm only translating from 2 languages? Okay. I don't need to talk about landscapes in Europe for the product I'm working on. So why do I have to have AI that has that built in? So what Caraone has done is said, look, we're going to build models that are very specific to what video editors need. We don't need the rest of that stuff. And by stripping all that out and creating their own, this now can run on premises at your facility without talking to the cloud. So this is a fantastic example here. I'm going to type in the concept going fast. What the hell does that mean, right? But how many of you, especially folks who are documentary filmmakers, when it says she laughed at this, then you cut to a video of someone laughing. Okay, that's kind of low-hanging fruit, right? How can we be more artistic about that? Well, if we search for concepts, then we can kind of flesh out that idea. So I typed in going fast here. If I hit OK, it's going to go through the media. It's indexed. It's going to understand, as much as AI can, what going fast means. And it should pop up in a second here, so I don't look like an idiot. But what you should see, there we go. So what we have here, like a dash cam. How is that going fast? Well, someone got in a crash right there, was going pretty fast. Okay, that's a good one. How about this? Yeah, motorcycles go fast. That totally tracks. So I can search for not only objective things, right, like truck, right? That's not going to be too hard to find. But I can also find things like, let's say, an unhappy man outside. And I can't type, as you can see. I went to an art school, not a spelling school. Okay. Close enough. We'll see what it gets. There we go. So yeah, if I was on CNN, I'd be unhappy too. But he is unhappy. He is unhappy outside. So imagine as an editor, you get Quickture running inside Media Composer, running inside Premiere. It helps you craft what you need for that story, but then you need the visuals. Okay, then you use Carol One to find the visuals. And now you put that together, and it's not replacing you, but it's using Carol One for discovery, finding potential ideas. And I can then export these, right? I can favorite a couple of these. I can then export them and send it to whatever NLE I want, right? So I've got my AAF, I got my XML, I got my EDL. I love acronyms. This can spit out all of those for whatever you're editing in. All right, let's bounce back to Keynote. Any questions so far? Are we good? Yeah.
Okay, what was that?
Sure. Carol One, Caraone. It is it's a facility tool. This isn't something you'd put at your house. What I can recommend is, has anyone here heard of Jumper? Yeah? All right. Management is meh, but the product is great. It's called getjumper.io. It's a lot like Media Intelligence from Adobe, but it uses free models that you can download. So while Adobe has done a great job of making sure that their models are cleansed and proper and not, they're all good to use, not that I want to know how to build a bomb, right? I don't. But if I'm working on a documentary in World War II, I might need to know that. So by using the models that are publicly available, that can kind of get around the kind of the good censorship issue, but it all comes down to your use case, And so getjumper.io, check it out. It's paid, but it's not Carol One facility enterprise grade. Yes?
So for this picture example, what if you have lots of good ones?
That's a great question. I just in the interest of time, I glazed over it. But what you can do, and let me bring this back up, and I'll go over to Quickture, is that this assumes you know what you're looking to do, right? Or let me back that up. The feature that I showed you is what we call auto edit, where it just edits based on parameters. Be this long, only include Neil deGrasse Tyson. But what if I wanted to interact with it first? What if I wanted to see what was in the footage because maybe I didn't watch it, right? So I can go up to guided edit over here, and I can type in questions. Let me turn this back on. I can type in questions, discuss, and edit. So I can say, are there any funny moments in here? Yeah, put all those at the front. So this allows you to discuss the edit before it's done. So this is really cool. And so what I've done on a lot of podcasts, the company I work for, Keycode Media, we do a lot of podcasts. The podcasts have multiple people talking. So what I do is I put each camera in the timeline, right? Not a multicam, not a group clip and have it. I put it on the timeline and I just feed it to Quickture. And Quickture says, oh, well, you've got 4 people here. Each person's saying this. What do you want to do with it? I say, I want 20 minutes and I want you to focus on this person more than this person, etc. And then if you look down at the bottom here, if I go into one of the other edits I've done, is you can then go in and refine this and say, okay, I like that first pass, but you left something out. Let's add that back in, but I want you to reiterate. And it keeps a different sequence for each one of those outputs. You're very welcome. All right, let's go back to Keynote. Yes.
One slide.
Sure.
The
Yes. That is me. I'm not showing my other arm because I played softball and I wrecked my wrist, so I had it behind me. You're very welcome. All right. So that's it for the most of the product section, but I want to give you a few pointers, right? And we'll ride this out until we get the old thumbs out. Most people who start using AI will go to ChatGPT and they'll type something in, and when they don't get the right answer, they say, this is rubbish. This is garbage. Remember, AI is a starting point. How many of you have used LUTs before? Lookup tables, right? All right. And, there's always that, I need a cinematic LUT. And then you put it on your clip and you're like, that doesn't look like something that's cinematic. Well, it's a starting point, right? So AI is iterative. You can't just type in one word and expect to get the right answer. You have to craft what you're asking, and that will get better as time goes on. But for right now, it has to be, you have to prompt the machine on how to act before you get your answer. The next one, and this is the best way I've heard on how to interact with AI. Communicate with your AI like an intern. And here's a great example. And I know my live AV people in back are going to be chuckling on this one. So when you do live AV and there's XLR cables on the floor and video cables on the floor, you have to tack them. That means putting them up against the wall so no one trips over them, right? It's just safety 101. You tack the cables usually in the corners. So early in my career, we had an intern. It was our first day. And we used the phrase, tack those cables down. We all knew what that meant. She didn't know, and that's not her fault. So when we came back an hour later, the cables were hung up on the wall and it looked like a Christmas tree, right? Because what did we say? Tack it against the wall. So what you have to, then the way this relates back to AI is assume your AI speaks your language, but it doesn't know the nuance. It doesn't know your business. So you need to tell it, you are a video editor. You are the best video editor. You will do this in this style. Okay, so another thing is, how should I prompt you? Right? Ask the AI. How should I prompt you? What data? How can I give you data that is going to help you craft the best response possible? You've probably seen all the news reports on this where a lawyer will cite cases that don't exist, right? Because they used AI. So ask your AI for sources and then verify. Click those links and make sure it doesn't go to a 404 webpage that doesn't exist anymore. So always do that. Be ethical. Don't be ish heads. That's I can't say that enough. If someone's gonna deep fake, I can't stop you, but come on. You know? All right. So if you are testing AI, these are the things you need to know about. First is, if you're working with a team, is the AI top down or bottom up? And what I mean by that is, if you have a team of people, let's say 3 editors, that's a team. Do you want the AI to index what everyone's working on and then give the same results to everyone who's searching? Or is it the opposite, where each of the individual editors are using their own AI, where there isn't that tribal AI knowledge, right? Because that determines what AI you get, whether it's at the top or it's at the bottom. What was it trained on? This goes back to ethics. Whenever you use an AI, a model online, you want to find out what it was trained on. Was it trained ethically? Is the data clean? Was it cleanly sourced? Is your media staying sovereign? Meaning, does it stay under your control? What kind of AI is under the hood? This is the thing, and maybe this is just my engineer chip on my shoulder, is that there's a lot of grifters out there, and AI is no exception. So we've seen AI from that smart people will come up with, and they're just throwing darts, right? Will it work in the banking industry? Will it work in media and entertainment? Will it work for retail? So I'm a big fan of AI that you use for media if that AI was actually created by a company who understands media. Like QuickShare, for example. The guy who cut it was a producer and was an unscripted editor for decades. Okay, I believe you have my interests more in, my best interests is in mind than what Meta or Facebook is doing to try and capture everyone with generic AI. I'm also a big fan. Does everyone here know what flow state is? Right? When you're in your tool, whether it's Pro Tools or Final Cut or Avid or Resolve or Premiere, you want to make sure that it works with your tools, because if you have to then save it and then export an MP4, then upload it, then wait for the results, and then like, no, I don't like that, reprocess. Okay, more tokens. All right, then download it, then put it back in your NLE. That's no fun. So I'm a big fan of saying your tool better work inside the tool I'm using, because if it's not, then I have to go and work around your schedule.
When you see the time real quick, sure, I'm going to bet that's here.
Sure.
Actually, no.
I know who built this. I can get it to you.
So Michael and I had this great hour-long conversation about us being here today. And one of the things that came up that really I felt would be great to share with you guys is what I was asking him, because he has access to all these tools and he's tried them all. I'm like, okay, I love Quickture because, thank you, I see your 5-minute warning. I love Quickture because I do a lot of documentary film editing, directing, and producing. I have a passion for documentary, and Quickture is great because, as Michael just mentioned, the guy who created it was in reality. And then I was thinking about, so I edited for 6 years for Disney and for their entertainment marketing and branded content. And for branded content, even though we're doing a lot of stuff that's like promos and shorts, the stuff we're building it from is like, oh, Dancing with the Stars. Do you know? I mean, it's hundreds of hours of footage, right? So that's really great for that type of editing or that type of work. But I started asking him about things like Eddy AI and Opus Clips, and there's so many different manufacturers now. And I wanted us to talk a little bit about how do we kind of pinpoint which of these tools are going to be great for the genre or the style of editing we're doing, or how do we kind of assess. I mean, some of them are expensive.
Mhm.
Some of them are, I mean, I don't have time to sit there all day trying 10 new tools. So how do I get that information? Where can I go to kind of learn besides YouTube? Like, what is your experience with the cost and the benefit for these different tools, and which of these tools can you talk a little bit about those? One of the reasons I like Quickture is it has a panel inside Premiere, and that's what Michael was showing. Did you guys all understand that? That's something that you integrate inside of Premiere. So for me, that's another reason that's a tool I might choose, as opposed to going outside. You know, I don't want to leave Premiere unless I really have to, unless I'm going to get such a great benefit by doing so. So that is a reason why I might choose that.
Mhm.
But the price point is a reason I might not.
Right.
So if you could speak a little bit. to
I
that.
wish I could say there was a website you could go to and it ranks things, and all of it's bought and paid for. And because if you've all heard of vibe coding, right, which is someone sitting down and using AI to program and then making some choices but letting AI do most of the work, is that folks are creating tools that may be great for what they think we need, but they don't come from people who understand our industry. If I talk to an AI manufacturer and I say the word LUT and they say, well, excuse me, what was that word you used? No. So unfortunately, it has to be a meeting. I usually take a meeting to learn about them and learn about the company. And that also gives me insight, and I'm not going to name any names. It was one of the products you brought up, but I'm not going to say what product. And I spoke with the founder, and he said, you should really get to know my vision before you judge the product. And my thought was kind of, nah, if you have a product, that should be your damn vision. So I'm a big fan of wanting to understand it holistically from the inception and to what the product is now. So, and unfortunately, like I said, if any of you follow on the social media channels, there are folks who make videos on AI. Again, sponsored. That's sponsored, right? So it's hard to get a temperature of what works and what doesn't. Also, I guess from a legal perspective, the marketing laws in the US are so lax that you can say just about that your product is just about anything. And as long as there's an asterisk next to it, it means, oh, it's a roadmap item, right? There's a competitor to Adobe who makes software, and they have all these claims on the software, and then you buy the product and it's like, oh no, that's forecasted for next year. No, that doesn't fly. So there is no clearinghouse, especially for media and entertainment. What you will start to see, though, is a lot of content creators are saying, I'm going to use cloud AI, and I don't care if they train if they use my IP to train, because by the time they do that, I'll have moved on. I'll have made different content by that. So I don't know if that answers your question at all. Like, no.
Kind of. I mean, that's the tricky part. I also wanted to say that's something I wanted to remind people about is in a professional setting, particularly here in Hollywood, it's really important to understand when you're using AI tools, which ones, this is my phrase, ping the cloud. So by that, it means if they're sending content up to the cloud, there's no way you're going to have access over whether it's training on that content or not. So if I'm, as an editor or a producer or even a director, if I'm working on content for a client that I've been hired to work with, I need to be very aware of which features inside those applications, like I'll use Premiere as an example. Pretty much you can use all the automated AI features with the exception of Gen Extend, because that's going to take frames of your visual content or audio content, because they're going to give you Gen Extend for sound effects and music pretty soon here too. But if it's taking some of your frames, sending them up to the cloud, and then sending you back. So the guy starts getting into the car, but then the shot cuts out, right? I want to see him get the rest of the way into the car. Or, well, they're going to generate those frames from you for you from your own content. That is sending that content up to the cloud. Another thing would be, okay, let's say my caption, okay, I've got translating text from English to English. Well, my text-based editing is not sending anything to the cloud in that case. Making English subtitles, not sending anything to the cloud. Making Spanish subtitles, not sending anything. Oh, wait, if I have Spanish content, I have audio from the video in another foreign language, and I want it to translate that for me into any language, that pings the cloud. Okay, so that's sending that script up to the cloud that Adobe is running. So I need to be aware of which of those features I can and cannot use if I'm dealing with sensitive content or a client that just does not allow that. So those are things that I think a lot of people as professionals don't spend a lot of time thinking about. But it's this point that you had up here about...
If you look at the screen right now, I love acronyms. You don't have to, but some of them you should know about. QuickShare, for example, has SOC 2 compliance, GDPR compliance, TPN, I don't want to say compliance, it means TPN audited. But what you want to do is anyone that says use my AI for your media, say, okay, what certifications does your tech have? Does it meet any of this criteria? If it doesn't, that means you're not paying attention to our vertical, our business, and that's a problem.
And even when it does meet those certifications, compliance, it depends on who you're working for. So if I'm editing anything for Disney or any of their companies, no, I can't use Gen Extend to extend frames on my clip. Sorry, that's off the table. But I can go ahead and clean up all the noise. I can use auto reframe. I can use text-based editing. So it's just about knowing, even if they are compliant, what you can and can't do if you have to be in, legal compliance with your contract in that sense. I'm going to let you wrap this up.
Yeah, I just don't have time. So we're going to, I'm condensing 2.5 hours into 45 minutes. So, hey, I did. Part of what I've done throughout my career is I got a break when I was young as a sound editor, and I got flown out to Hollywood and I got to work on a feature documentary. And one of the people I worked with said, Michael, the greats give back. And so since then, I've been working with the various user groups around town. I have a web series where I demystify technology and I don't take any sponsors. I talk about what's real with the technology and what's BS. So if you want to check that out at 5thingsseries.com. I was going to give you, I did put my cell number in here, but then I'm like, you know who the hell I am. So I have a QR code for the WhatsApp. If you find something cool, tell me. Because the only way we learn about these things, just like Christine and I spoke about before we came here today, is how can I learn from Christine? How can she learn from me? How can we share the information? And that's the only way we're going to survive as a community, especially when our business is being eaten to some extent by content creators, right? We have to band together. So thank you for your time. Christine, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Is there an announcement that needs to be made, or?
Yeah, I can take some questions if that's cool.
I for one question. What a pleasure, because you have the light on. Yeah, and I can see you. Question.
Yes.
We still see those who say, so it's the one, like, AI, right? Have thoughts, right? But,
You want to go or should I?
I mean, you can.
Okay.
You can do that. Yes.
The most prevalent one right now is 11 Labs, not 12 Labs, because 12 Labs is AI as well. 11 Labs spelled out the word 11. They do voice cloning. They are not the most ethical, meaning you probably heard when the president was running, someone was impersonating Joe Biden and having Joe Biden call people. That guy got nailed because he was using 11 Labs. You may remember, what was the movie with Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, where he had to do
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist, where he had to do an accent and it had to be very specific and he couldn't quite nail it. So they used a company called Respeecher. And Respeecher does that kind of high-end Everything is signed off on. Everything has approvals, that kind of thing.
I would say the majority of what you're seeing when you see that person's image and likeness teaching you in their own voice, that's probably 11 Labs.
The audio, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lot less expensive. You can spin it up inside 5 minutes. It's not difficult. Yeah.
It's cheap. But okay, and this depends on, how keyed into this stuff you are, but those of us who look frame by frame every day really are. For me, it feels unnatural. It hits that uncanny valley thing for me often, where I just feel like, ooh, this still feels not real. But it's getting better and better to the point where your average viewer is going to accept it if it's just a talking head instructional, that they're going to be like, yeah, this is totally great. This saves me so much time.
It is not cost effective to do a lifelike recreation of someone as a clone with video. There is a company out there called Flawless AI, and they specialize in changing performance. So let's say you had someone speaking in English, but you need to translate to Spanish. So you can certainly have someone re-speak the language, but the mouth has to change. So what Flawless does is allow you to go in there and it will automatically analyze the new language and the mouth and say, well, I need to move the mouth for it to say this. And then you can go in and adjust keyframes.
And what Netflix stuff?
Yeah. Flawless is one of the big ones. Otherwise, it's done by hand. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. We don't have time for this discussion, but maybe on the break. I mean, this concept of the more we do these kind of things, is authenticity going to be something that we come to value and prize so much? Which I think more and more I'm feeling that, where authenticity becomes such a valuable commodity that you learn to notice when it's been cloned or when it's the real person speaking to you, even though the AI is getting really good at sounding natural. If you take a look at some of the agents that are being created, particularly the phone agents that are calling you to sell you or solve your problems for you, create solutions for you, some of them sound like a real person now, audio only. And they respond to you with real answers that make you kind of wonder, I think this is not a real person, but it could be. Like, are you a real person? And they're trained to answer that question now in ways that are ambiguous. Anyway, but we can talk about that later.
I guess parting thought, and I mentioned this earlier, all AI is not created equal. Gen AI is what you should have an eyebrow raised to. Analytical AI is not going away. It's been around. We used to call it machine learning. Analytical AI is what is going to pay bills. Analytical AI is what's going to make you more efficient. Editors aren't going to lose their jobs to AI. They're going to lose their job to people who are using AI. So be efficient. AI will make you more efficient, will not replace you.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.